Okay, well, I think we can start. Big warm welcome to everybody who's just joined us here on our 14th live session that we've been running since we launched the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety back in 2020. I see a lot of new people, a lot of new faces. Of course, we rode this particular session for the first time in 2021, I believe, when we first started doing our live sessions. And as you know, the live sessions here at the Yours Academy are an addition to the other offerings that we bring for our young leaders, such as yourselves in the Global Youth Coalition, to learn and build your capacity as young leaders to be stronger advocates, to be stronger community champions, and of course, run your own effective road safety projects, sustainability projects in your communities. So firstly, big warm welcome. For those of you that haven't met me before, my name is Manpreet Darach. I am the Director of Capacity Development at Yours. And if you didn't know, Yours is the parent organization of the Global Youth Coalition. We're behind the Yours Academy. And essentially our work here is to bring you the knowledge and skills that you need in your communities, to maximize the things that are happening on a global level and trickle it down into road safety at the grassroots, which is so important for us to see. And it's so great to have you guys here with us on this live session. So without further ado, just want to say that I will be running this session alongside my colleague Daniela, who's also, you'll see her somewhere in the participants list as well. Daniela is a project management, a capacity development manager for the capacity development team here at Yours. And she'll be helping me to deliver some of this key information with you on today's session. You just want to say hello, Danny?
Yeah, Manpreet, thank you. And hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to having a great session.
Lovely. So as you can tell, I'm from the UK. You might be able to tell from my accent. And Danny is from Colombia. So you'll be hearing some nice mix of accents as well today. All right. So what is these live sessions is all about? You may be attending your first live session. This may be the first one as you've attended as a global youth champion, as somebody who's part of the coalition. Now, the whole idea of these live sessions is to supplement the learning that we offer you through the Yours Academy, the online platform. We now have 3 modules on there for you to jump into. And at the start of every year, we work with you to understand what your learning needs are, right? So what is it that you want to learn about? What is it going to make you more effective advocates? What's going to make you more of an interesting opportunities for you to capitalize on as youth leaders in your countries and communities, right? So every year we set up this needs assessment and understand what the curriculum is going to be for this year. We did one earlier this year in January. And one of the biggest things that come up, one of the top kind of requests that you want to learn about is project management. How do we manage a project effectively? If I want to come up with an idea or I want to create a concept that needs funding that we can make some money from, but at the same time, obviously affect change in our communities. That was one of the top topics that came up in this session. So this is one of the sessions we're running. We're going to be running 4 live sessions throughout this year. And as you know, we're going to be also running our Yours Academy modules, which we're launching throughout the year as well, right? Then, of course, we have the Global Youth Statement for Road Safety. The Global Youth Statement is all about our key core advocacy document, which is kind of talking about what is it that we strive for as young leaders? What is it that we as kind of the community need from decision makers, what we ourselves can bring to the table, but also the reality we face on the world around us. So it's rooted in the Global Youth Statement and connecting our work to the SDGs and so forth. And of course, there's lots of experience in the room. So learning from each other, learning from other young leaders and learning from experts as well. That's a really core part of what we do. And then of course, everything is underpinned by our gamified, interactive, hopefully a fun session that you're going to have today and beyond as well through all the work we do through capacity development here at Yours. So, as you know, we always like to start with a little bit of interaction to understand where our audience is from. We have 73 people at the moment from all different walks of life, all different parts of the world, and we're really, really keen and interested in seeing where you guys are from. So I want you to, if you haven't done a Menti before, all you need to do is on your phone or on your laptop, and preferably on your phone, is just log in to menti.com and type in the code 35179874, or you can scan this QR code on your phone as well. Just log in, and we're going to switch to that screen and just see where people are tuning in from and what your experiences have been in kind of project management and beyond. All right, so give you a couple of minutes just to log in. All right, so at the moment, I think not see are people able to log in at the moment? Yeah, there we go. So we have 3 people logged in now. 4 people. All right, I'm going to wait a couple of minutes just to have everybody join in. I can see people already saying hello in the chat, you know, where people are from, etc. Some people are dropping their personal socials and stuff already in the chat. All right, that's nice. Good. You should be connecting with each other. All right, so 19 people. I'm going to wait a couple of about a minute or so more just to see more people joining on the Menti. So the code's on the screen. You can see it right now. It says 3517 9874. You see it there on the left as well. So, or you can scan the QR code. All right, I'm going to start when we get to like 50% of participants at the minimum. So let's jump to 30 and then we'll start. All right. In the meantime, I'm going to say hello to people in the chat. So hello, Zane. Hello, Godia. Hi, Simon. Who else is here? David from Tanzania. Hello. Lovely. Hello, Mao. Hi to Steffel. Hi to Stephen. Hi to Ishor. All right, 3 more. We're almost there. Keith. Hello, Keith. Hello to Faisal. Hi to Nuria. There's lots of names that I've not seen before, so it's really great, encouraging to see people. Hi, Svetlana. I know you've been here from the very start, I think, almost. So hello, Svetlana, as well. All right, so a couple more people just to wait for you to get in. Hello to Noor, Zaran. Hello to Shaluka. Nice one. Great to have you all here. All right, we're nearly there. 2 more. I'm going to be a stickler for this. I'm just going to keep waiting for people to join. Hello, Pedius. Hope I said your name right, from Tanzania. Welcome. Let's see who else we have. Hello, Eric. Hello, Asimwe. Hello, Tapelo. All right, 30. Great. Let's go. So keep joining, guys. Keep joining. The instructions on how to join is at the top of the screen. All right. So the first question, I see that some people have already answered this already, which is really good. Is now you're testing our geography skills a little bit, because my world map skills are okay, but not fantastic. All right. So first thing is we're going to do is I just want you to pin the country you're from. Right. This is a little new thing that we've done recently. I really like it because it's really showing our global representation from across the world. Right. So I see somebody from my hometown, UK. Nice one. I'm seeing lots of pins coming up from Africa. I think I can see Tanzania there, Uganda. That's West Africa. I'm thinking that's Nigeria and Ghana, I think. I see someone from Argentina, Colombia, obviously, because I know Danny's here, so that's definitely 1 pin from Colombia. I'm seeing India, a couple of pins in India as well. Sri Lanka, I can see there as well. We're going a little bit far east. Look at that, guys. Look at that. Just look at the global representation that we have here from different countries. It's really amazing to see. You know, almost the entire globe is represented. A little bit of a black spot in Australia because I think it's a bit late for them this evening, isn't it? But South Africa, I think that's maybe Zimbabwe or a country near there. What else we got? Uganda. Yeah, I've got Uganda. This is really cool. It's really cool to see how many people are, you know, connected from around the world. And this is a real true representation of our organization, the Global Youth Coalition, of how many people are part of this global movement and really engaged in the work we're doing. I see a big number of people down here. What's that? Is that Mexico? Right? Mexico, kind of Mexican border, a little bit entering into South America. All right, nice one. We see somebody said that's not India, it's Nepal. All right. This is definitely India here. That's probably Nepal there, right? don't worry, we're not doing a geography test. It doesn't matter. It's okay. I'll just acknowledge everybody who's here in the room. All right. Big shout out to all of you. All right. Next question. So one word that comes to mind when you think of project management. It could be absolutely anything. Long as you're not swearing, just share us your words of what you feel project management is for you. Okay, nice. Actions, delegation, teamwork, business. Wow, brilliant. Organizing, research. Fantastic. What else do we have? Business, investment, data gathering, plan to compilation, plan to compilation. Maybe that's plan to completion. All right. What else we got? Budget, yeah, plans, monitoring, coordination and teamwork, collaboration. Great. Well, good thing is that we're actually going to be tackling a lot of these words that come up today in this session. So it's really good to see that you have a good feeling and a good idea of what comes to mind when you think of project management. All right, I'm going to go to the next slide. So next question is, have you ever implemented a project before? Now, this doesn't have to be on a road safety level. This could be a school project. It could be a house project. It could be any kind of project that you may have done before. But I want you to start thinking and connecting with the idea that a project has a start and an end time. It has a process. It has a conceptualization ideas. There's implementation. You need to reflect on whether it went well. You need people to help you deliver it or not. So a little bit of an idea. So 97% of people have implemented a project before. Now, obviously, that means that you're here to learn some new skills, right? You may have implemented a project before, but this is the opportunity for you to really hone in on those skills and understand how to do projects more effectively as well. So great. It's great to see that a lot of people have done that in the past. All right, next question. Have you ever received funding for a project? So have you ever been funded by an external funder to say, here's some money, here's some opportunity to run a project in your community or in your country or whatever. And that doesn't necessarily need to be money per se. It could be, somebody's giving you time, somebody's giving you resources, somebody's giving you something to use to help implement a project. So have a little think about that. So we're almost 50-50, right? So almost just over 50% have received some sort of funding. And just over 45%, well, 45% now have not, right? Thank you, Sophie, for helping out Marungi in the chat. Much appreciated. All right, next question. How much do you think you know about project management? How much do you think you personally know about project management? A lot? You feel like you can get by, you can manage, or nothing at all? You can see the scales like moving around quite a bit. 4.8, 4.9. So this is I believe out of across the board in terms of how many people all our participants, how much the vast majority of people feel like they can manage, right? They can get by. Because a lot of this, let's be honest, a lot of things in project management is common sense, right? A lot of it in life is about using your common sense, not making assumptions, backing things up with data, backing things up with evidence, doing things that work, So a lot of this is you probably could manage, but to take yourself from good, all right, not too bad, to a great project, that's what we're here to learn today as well, right? Next question is, what do you think are the key attributes that make a project successful? One or two things. So we mentioned earlier what comes to mind when you think of project management. Now we're thinking about what are some of the things that make a project successful, right? So some people said earlier on, maybe it's a team, it's a budget, it's research, it's monitoring, it's all these different things. But what do you think makes the project successful, right? So let's have a look at some of those questions. So communication, continuity, somebody said planning, time management. Let's have a look what he says here. Time management and a good team, right? Okay. Leadership, somebody said leadership as well. What else we got? Funding, of course, continuity, being proactive and being honest, having stakeholders involved as well, somebody that you're trying to impact and work with, right? Realism, so being realistic with what you can and can't achieve. Time team, I think you meant time and a team, right? Because there's a show in the UK called Time Team. It's not, you don't want that in a project. They're just uncovering archaeological sites, so don't worry about that. Leadership, again, time management, good team, intelligence, technical know-how, execution, of course, implementing things, having a passion for your topic. Is that enough, do you think, for creating a successful project? Something I want you to think about. Good planning, planning and funding. Let's have a look at all the answers and have a look at a little skip through and see what people have come up with. Perseverance, pragmatism, leadership, smart. I like that. Somebody's already thinking about smart and smart objectives. We're going to be talking about that today as well. Planning, collaborating, transparency, accountability, having a time frame. Leaderships tend to come up quite a lot. That's one of the big ones, I think. Good team, funding, accurate plan. All right, brilliant. Some really good ideas here as well. And you're going to see how we are going to unpack that a little bit more as we move on in today's session. All right, last couple of questions to go now. So are you going to be working on a road safety project or starting a road safety project in the next 3 months or so? Wow, that's amazing. A lot of people are starting road safety projects, or at least contemplating it and starting it and thinking about it and getting it going, right? So, wow, it's a lot of people who are running a road safety project. So 31 people are looking to plan and create a project in the next 3 months. Some people are not, but they're just, obviously you're here to learn more information about how to do that. Or maybe it's not a road safety related project as well, right? Okay, fantastic. And final question is, obviously we recently launched the Local Actions Project, which is funding from us, the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety, to members of the Youth Coalition to get funding to run a project in your community that's connected to the SDGs and so forth. So vast majority of people are not local action winners. There are some here in the room as well. There may be some people here who have actually implemented a local action project over the last couple of years as well. But it doesn't matter if you are or if you aren't, but I think that these guys, if you're starting a project this year as well, this is a really useful session for you as well, to pick up your key skills on starting that project moving forward. All right, fabulous. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for taking part in that. Really appreciate your inputs and your insights. What I want to do is I want to talk you through now some of our learning objectives for this session. Now, this helps us to orientate the direction that we're going in with this session moving forward. And what we're going to be doing is, by the end of this session, you as the members of the Global Youth Coalition and people here to learn will be able to explain what a project is and what project management is in terms of what it means, identify the difference between goals, objectives, and activities, understand how to build smart objectives. So you already saw that smart objectives is something that's come up in terms of what makes something successful, and understand the different project management phases. We're going to be starting and looking at 2 key project management phases, and that's an important part of our learning today. So, as I mentioned, it's not just going to be me talking in today's session. I want to introduce now Danny. Danny is a young, actually, she has a very interesting story as being somebody who was a recipient of a local action project back in, well, I think she's been like a 3-time winner of local action projects. Won the Impact Generator Challenge back in 2020 at the World Youth Assembly, Then she did a couple of years of local actions projects. So she is like the perfect young leading person example of somebody who's who runs projects and can help contextualize what a project is, what it isn't. And I'm just hyping her up because I'm going to introduce her to the stage now. So thank you very much, Danny. Thank you so much. And I'm going to pass over to Danny, who's going to talk to you now a bit about what projects are and moving forward. Over to you, Danny.
Thank you, Manpreet. And again, hi, everyone. Well, yeah, let's get it started. I hope this session is going to be very insightful for you, and it is going to be very interactive. So keep tuning in. We will have a lot of interaction between you in a bit. But for now, I'm going to start with the first concept, and it is what is a project? Manpreet, I don't know if you can maybe change the slide or stop. Yeah, sharing. All right. So what is a project, guys? It is something that needs to have at least 4 elements that are underlined here. So a project is a set of activities that are carried out to achieve specific objectives within a given time and using certain resources. So here we have 4 things, right? We have activities, or let's say the tasks that you are going to implement, the objectives that are wider things that we will see right after and on how to build those objectives, but we really need to target at something. We will have also time because we cannot be implementing a project forever, so we need to allocate a specific time period to implement our project. And we would need also some resources that can go from monetary resources to human resources, right? Your team. So a project is not only an activity. It's not only, let's say, I'm going to measure the speeds on the road in front of a school. That's not a project itself. It can be an activity, but the project is something absolutely wider. And what is project management? So if we go to the next slide. Manpreet. Perfect. So we have a project, we have a clear understanding that it is not only an activity, but it's something wider that needs the resources, a time frame, activities, and objectives. And when we have that, we need to understand that we need to manage it, that we need to follow certain steps to ensure the project gets done and gets to the objectives that we have defined before. So project management is the process of ensuring the project gets done in regards to its scope, the deadlines, the budget, and other factors specified in our project plan. What is a project plan? It can be a tool. For example, for the local action winners, they will have a project dashboard, which is a tool where they can track and follow up on each one of their activities, their indicators, etc. And project management will give us a more structured way on working and a picture of the expected results. So we really implement our activities and we really implement every task following and trying to accomplish a certain target and an objective. All right, so projects have different phases. The first one is the identification. It is the process of understanding what our project is going to be about. What is the problem? And what is this issue that we want to focus on, right? And next, after this first step, we would have the, can you give me the next element, please? The planning, which is actually what we will focus on today. And it is understanding what we need to plan before we start the next phase, which is the implementation, the actual delivery of the activities. And the final phase would be the evaluation and the monitoring and understanding how did all the project go after its implementation. So today, we'll focus on the first 2 phases. We will talk about a little bit on how to do this identification, how to understand what issue should we try to solve or relate to in our project, and then what are these 7 steps, 7 key steps that we cannot miss in order to make our project successful. So some of them have been already mentioned in the Menti before when you were talking about what makes a project successful. And now what we are going to do is that we are going to start reviewing those elements in an interactive session that we will work in breakout rooms. All right.
Thank you so much for participating in that activity. I can see everybody's mural boards, so it's really good to see. I think everybody has had the chance to have a bit of a brainstorm in terms of, you know, where do we get good road safety data from? So remember, when we are in this first phase of creating a project, we're in the identification phase, right? It's really, really important for us to get data that backs up our assumptions, because most cases we've seen something. And when it comes down to road safety, we've seen something happen in the community. We've witnessed a road crash, or somebody we care about has been killed on the road, right? And we make an assumption that this road is very dangerous, or this part is really important to do some action on, or to have some kind of implementation of a road safety project or education or something along those lines. But we have to back that up with data, and especially if we want to get funding or we want to get kind of donor support, it's super important for us to back our assumptions up with quantitative and qualitative data, right? So I'm going to look at a couple of people's mural boards. So in group 1, they looked at quantitative data from police statistics, from press and media. There was a lot of stuff on qualitative data where it had like surveys and interviews and people's perceptions. Group 2 didn't get a chance to drag their sources from 2 to 3, but that's okay. But I saw you had things like hospital records, government agencies, survivor testimonies, talking to local communities, talking with automobiles and taxi cabs and so forth, specialized magazines that talk about car safety. Group 3 also had a look at academic research, looking at census data, hospital data, and so forth. And qualitative data was looking at things like discussions, observations, user perceptions, road users, focus groups. And group 4 was in the process of doing it as well. So good job. You had qualitative data, was talking to the community, based on people's perceptions. In quantitative, you had things like, again, police statistics from national road safety organizations and authorities. And group 5 did some great. You have a really good mix here, group 5, of identifying things like Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Public Affairs, you know, media, qualitative and quantitative different data. So as Danny mentioned, it's super important that we get the broader picture so we can do these generalizable trends, understand that, for example, this road is really dangerous, X amount of people are being killed on this road every day, understanding the crash statistics, understanding official data. But what's super, super important as well is that we're not just working from assumptions, right? Treat this sometimes as a bit like a hypothesis. You may come up with an idea, but how do you prove that it actually is a problem, right? So we're looking at what is the quality of our data. We all know that things like media and fake news exists, right? So how do we validify our data? How do we pass it through these different kind of filters to make sure that the data that we're drawing our information from is reliable, it's useful, it's valid, and it's accurate as well. Now, many of you who've done a doctorate, or maybe there's some people in here who've done doctorate, or even an academic, any kind of academic qualification, university, undergraduate, we all talk about the importance of data, right? Now, I remember back when I was at university, they said to us, do not use Wikipedia as a source, right? Because Wikipedia can be edited by anyone. It's not valid. It's like anybody can say anything there. And I remember in my first ever, assignment that I did, I referenced Wikipedia, and my lecturer sent a note back with a big red mark around it saying, what did I say about Wikipedia? Anyway, I never did it again. But, you know, Wikipedia is a really great place to find actual sources at the bottom. But other places like Ministry of Transport sources, places like official statistics are all really, really like official ways. Data's been validated, WHO, all these different places that give you available data. There is a lot of data out there that actually can that can prove whether your problem is an issue or not, and what are the ways that you can overcome them. So that's the identification phase. Data is so important in everything that we do, and everything needs to be evidence-based and based on that, right? So that's how we understand if there's a problem or not, and we've identified that there's a problem. All right, so we've got the data, we understand it's an issue, it's been backed up by statistics, we've spoken to people, we've triangulated our data, which is another phrase which we'd use for mixed resources, is we've used some quantitative, we've used some qualitative, we've merged some of these ideas together, and we've come to an assumption and a conclusion that a problem exists, and we're going to do something about it, right? So now you've got your idea, you know what you want to focus on. How do we then turn that into a project plan, which is phase 2 of the project management phases? And how do we now start turning this into something that's actually going to make some tangible sense, right? How are we going to present this to other people? How are we going to take our ideas from our head and our data into something that is actually going to kind of make sense for people to follow and actually be a part of? So there's 7 steps in project planning. First is, what is our goal? What is it we're trying to do and achieve in this project? Then, what are our objectives? What are our very specific things that we're trying to achieve by a certain time, by a certain moment, by a certain, we're using certain resources, using time bound of understanding when we're going to start and finish. Every project has a start and finish date, and that's very important. You mentioned that in the Menti at the start as well when we're asking you those questions. We're looking at, all right, we've got our understanding, what it is we want to achieve. We're very specific. We understand our bigger picture. We've got the data. Now, how are we going to implement? How are we going to understand the activities that happen in making that possible? And then, of course, how are we going to make sure that what we wanted to do, what we say we're going to do, actually happened, right? So how do we improve our processes as we're going along? What is our learning as we're happening? And where is our kind of baseline of data to show that actually what we've done, our project has actually led to some sort of change? Because there's no point in doing a project if it's not going to actually lead to some kind of social change or some sort of statistical change or anything is that you identify. And in this phase, it's really important to identify that as well. Of course, we need a budget. What do we need things to get paid? What do we need in terms of people's payment, the resources we might need, the places we might meet, the actual money that we need to put the project in place, and then how long are we going to be doing this implementation and timeline, and who's going to help us deliver it in terms of our team. So I'm going to just now zoom in very quickly on these first 3 different elements using a kind of real practical case study to help kind of identify and exemplify what we're doing in these different phases as we move along. All right. So I want to give you an example from an organization called Amend. You may have heard of them. They're a Tanzanian organization. And they worked, they're Tanzanian, but they're a global organization working primarily in Africa and all around the world as well. And this was a project called Rise Tanzania, which was looking at data in terms of creating a compelling case of what we need to achieve in a project. So this is a little case study. I want to share this video with you to kind of contextualize the next 3 steps of phase 2 of project management. All right, so have a little look at this.
Masomo mema wanangu, kuweni makini barabarani.
Kwa jina naitwa Nixon Kiswaga, na umri wa miaka 13, niko darasa la 7. Nasoma shule ya msingi Wenda, ambayo iko kilomita 2 kutoka nyumbani. Ili niweze kufika shuleni, lazima nivuke barabara kubwa inayoenda Mbeya. Haya maisha yangu ya kila siku kwa miaka 7 sasa.
Kwa kweli, siku hiyo nilikuwepo niko shambani. Nilivyorudi, narudi tu, nikakuta mwanangu wamebeba kwenye baskeli wanapeleka hospitalini. na hapo nikamwangalia kweli mwanangu akawa ameumia. Nikasema aliyemgonga ni nani? Kwa kweli hakuja yule kijana. Ikabidi mwanangu Nixon alazi, nikaanza kuuguza. Kwa kweli wakati namuuguza Nixon, kwa kweli sikufanya kazi ya aina yoyote, maana ilitakiwa nibakie nyumbani nimlee mtoto. Kwa kweli nilihangaika huo mwaka huo, nilihangaika vibaya mno, hata chakula chenyewe nikabidi niwe nanunua tu wakati nilikuwa sinunua. Maana sikuwa naenda shambani na sikuwa nafanya kazi yoyote, hata kiuchumi ilinirudisha nyuma vibaya.
Kabla nilivyokuwa sijapata ajali nilikuwa nashika namba 1 na namba 3. Nilivyopata ajali nikawa nashika namba 9 na namba 10, kwa sababu nilikaa nyumbani muda mrefu nikiuguza kidonda. Pamoja na matatizo haya, bado sijakata tamaa, bado naendelea kujisomea kwa bidii.
So obviously what you can see here is that we're kind of framing the issue, understanding what the issue has been, what the problem is. Obviously young boy Nixon has been injured, and his story is similar across East Africa and many low middle income countries around the world, where young people, young children on their way to school are kind of witnessing road crashes that are really affecting their educational attainment and a financial impact on their family. So we've identified the issue, we've contextualized the issue, we understand where it's coming from. But now, how do we turn this into a project? How do we turn this idea into something that is going to impact people's lives, like Nixon and other young leaders of the future who are on their way to school? So the first thing that we mentioned is that we need to set a goal, right? So we've got our statistics, we've got our quantifiable data, we've got our qualitative data, we understand why that's an issue. And now it's time to set a goal, right? So describe the project's impact and what are the long-term effects that we should be triggering with our project, right? So that's something that we need to understand, what it is we're trying to achieve. We can talk in terms of problems, but talking in terms of solutions is going to help us understand what it is we want to change. And of course, providing the link between projects, it's a direct effects in terms of the objectives that we have in the next couple of steps of this phase, and what are the overarching goals within our work and the organization that we're working within. So understanding what it is we want to do with this project. What are we trying to do? So in Nixon's case, it may be that the idea is that the goal of this project is to have 0 road traffic injuries among children going to school in the Iringa district by 2022. That is our project goal, right? We understand that young kids are being killed, and this is what we want: 0 road traffic crashes, 0 injuries among children going to school. So how do we make that happen? What are how do we then connect that to some key objectives, right? So when you're drafting objectives, now we understand what the problem is, now we understand what our goal is. How do we then turn that into some objectives? And to do that, we need to ask a couple of key questions. The first one is, are the objectives in line with the target group and the beneficiaries? So in that case, is what we're doing going to affect young children like Nixon? Is it going to affect children going to school? Is it going to help us meet our goal? Yes or no? Is it going to work directly with those children and their key stakeholders around them? Are the objectives coherent with the challenges and demand you identified? So if you're coming up with a project to save children on the road, and your idea is to print a bunch of t-shirts and print a bunch of banners and say, we're going to save children's lives, is that actually going to do that? Is it coherent? Is it connected? Is it actually going to lead to change? Is it an infrastructure problem? Is it an education problem? Is it a road safety management problem? So making sure that your objectives are linking to those things. And also, are those objectives smart, right? We talked about smart objectives a little bit earlier on. Somebody mentioned it earlier. So just to kind of focus on actually what smart objectives are. Many of you may have heard of these before in other projects and other things that you're doing, but they really are still the cornerstone of creating real tangible change in a project and ensuring that we're meeting our goals. So what does SMART stand for? It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, and in some cases we say attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So all of these things need to be within your SMART objectives. So when you're specific, it's the who, the what, the how. You're measurable, like how do I understand what has changed? So if we're going from 100 injuries on the road to 0, we need to know what our baseline number is and if we've changed that in the first place, right? Is it achievable? Is it what we're doing? Is it something that actually we can do in the timeline that we've set out? Is it something that we can do within the resources that we have as well? Is it relevant? Is it going to basically address the challenge that we're focusing on? And of course, is it time bound? Like I said, a project needs to have a start and a finish date. And when does it finish? And how will it help reach objective in that time? So these are the overall idea of what a SMART objective is. So if we translated that into the Iringa case study, we could say that, for example, we're setting up a project where yours and the local government of Iringa will increase the safety of the school zones in Iringa by upgrading main access road to 5 stars, which is the IRAP highest safety standards by 2023. Yours and the Iringa school will implement a educational empowerment program for 145 students, focusing on the importance of safe crossing, visibility, and advocacy tools by 2023. Yours and the Iringa police will implement a speed limit enforcement training for 10 police officers and provide speed radars to the district by 2023. So you can see in all of those objectives, there are elements in there that is very specific. Who's going to do it? Yours and the local government. Who's going to work on it? Iringa school. Who else is going to be involved? People like the police. What's going to happen and how are you going to measure it? So in the first one, we're talking about upgrading the main road. So it's the main access road to 5 stars. So whatever it is now, it might be 0 stars or 1 star. We want to take it to 5. In the second bullet point, we're working on 145 students in schools. And we're focusing on something that's very specific. Are these realistic? Are these attainable? We could be even more specific in terms of timeline and say by August 2023, or by the fall of 2023, or by Christmas 2023. You could be very, very specific in those goals as well. In those objectives in terms of your time bound. And is it realistic? Are we saying we're going to reach every single student in Iringa? No, we're being very specific and say we're going to focus on 145. Are we saying we're going to train 1,000 police? Well, it might or might not be realistic based on the number of people in your team. Or we're going with something that is realistic and attainable, which is 10 police officers, right? So your objectives can be very, very specific, very, very to the point, and of course, making sure that it's relevant to the goal and the achievement of the goal. So that's super, super important in making those objectives. So then we turn those objectives into specific activities. Now, one of the things that many people tend to do, you may notice this, is that you have an idea, you have an idea of what you want to achieve, and you may say, right, the first thing that I want to do is I want to run a workshop with the school. That's not your project. That's an activity, right? Like you may say, I want to run a media campaign and I want to do a Facebook Live or whatever it is you want to do in the social media world. That's also not a project. That is just an idea and an activity. So now you start to see that you've got to start from an evidence-based perspective, understand your goal, then go into what your objectives are going to be. And then from your objectives, you understand how you're going to reach each objective through an activity. So what do we need to achieve the project objectives? So you ask yourself the question, which objectives contribute, which activity contributes to these objectives? How can we measure the impact of these activities? And is the activity based on evidence? And has the activity been done before? If yes, what's its impact? Now, a lot of the times activities have been implemented by other people, or people have faced similar issues in other countries. And activities involved that are evidence-based are a very, very easy way of looking at things like good practice manuals, case studies of what other people have done, looking at, road safety evidence from other countries and other organizations that have done something similar. And therefore, it's super, super important then to not necessarily reinvent the wheel, but choose activities that are actually effective and actually have an impact. And you ask those questions is how our activity is going to help reach our objectives. So let's again translate this into the case study, right? So let's look at the objectives and turn that into some activities to help reach them. So if we look at objective 1, we wanted to do some data collection. So ask road engineers to implement an assessment in the Iringa district and map improvements. That's an activity that's going to help us reach our first objective, which is all about increasing our access of the main access roads to 5 stars. How are we going to do that if we don't know what the star rating is already, right? So that's the first activity that's going to help reach objective 1. Then another activity may be to reach objective 2 is develop a educational an empowerment package for safe walking, meeting the local needs. That's going to help us reach that objective of training 145 students, focusing on the importance of those different areas that we focused on. And then the other one is develop an educational package and training for police officers to inform them on the importance of enforcing speed limits in an effective way. Now, of course, all of these different activities are going to have their own activities underneath them to help you reach that objective, that activity, and ultimately help reach your objective. So now you start to see that, some of these things, like I said, we may say, we want to develop an educational activity. That's my project. Well, no, that's not a project. That's just one activity that's going to help reach an objective. Where's the thinking behind it, right? And that's how you start to create these effective, well thought out projects that actually have strong basis, strong goals, strong smart objectives, and then activities to reach those objectives as well. So then we look at our different kind of understanding of how we split that into different phases, and how we go then into our project management phase of starting to project plan and map that out. So at the top, we have our goal, what it is we want to achieve. We said 0 road crashes, 0 injuries in Iringa on the way to that area in Tanzania. That's our kind of guiding principle, our guiding post. Everything we should do should help reach that goal. Then we have some objectives. So we have 1 objective, 2 objectives, and then from those objectives, we have specific activities that are going to help reach those objectives. So now you can see how a project should start to look in terms of being structured and help to kind of orientate our team towards these key goals. And the goal is always the prize, right? That's always the thing that we want to aim to achieve and aim to move towards. It's kind of an aspiration that we have. Okay, I'm going to pause there and just ask, are there any questions at this? I'm just going to go to the chat and see if there's any questions. Just saying, are we going to be sharing the slides? We're going to be sharing the video of this entire session, so you'll be able to see and review there. Okay, so you may still be asking at this stage and in this phase of project planning is, what's the difference between a goal, an objective, or an activity, right? So we're going to kind of go more into that now and have a little think about how we can identify a goal, how we can identify an activity, and how we can split up these 3 different areas that are so crucial in the first kind of project planning phase of a project, right? So we're going to attempt to do something that we haven't actually, I don't think we've actually done this before, but I want to share a document in the Zoom, if I can find it. Here
I can share the link if it's okay. So
yeah, go for it. Yeah, do it. So we're going to share a link to a document. And your task in this document is to basically classify these statements into a goal, an objective, or an activity. I'm going to give you a quick example.
Question, yeah.
Quick
Am I
example.
audible?
The first one says, develop a local consultation process that will enrich the youth statement. So is this a goal, an objective, or an activity? It's an activity, right?
Yeah, I have posted on the chat. Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. So the question was related to the road safety. I mean, if there is a project management principle that we know, and we need to apply it and to address the road safety issues, and what are the specific goals or the activities that we need to undertake to promote the road safety and reduce the accidents that is happening? I'm asking this question in the context of India.
Okay, that's a very good question, Prashant. Thank you for asking that. Now, the short answer to that is that it depends on each case by case basis. Now, you saw in Iringa in Tanzania in our example, this is a real life project, by the way, that actually the problem was, the issue was young people being killed or children being killed on the way to school, right? Somebody identified, the organizations identified that as a problem. They wanted to do an infrastructure project and all the different things around it. Now in India, there are very, very specific problems, road safety issues that are very specific to your context and your cultural context and your country context. Now, what I would recommend you do is obviously look at your problems through a holistic lens. So looking at it through a safe system approach, which understands, is it a infrastructure problem? Is it a vehicular problem? Is it a law or a change that needs to happen? Is it safe road users that you need? Or is it some kind of post-crash care that's really important to look at? Obviously, none of these things can exist without the other. And holistically, these 5 areas is what is going to make road safety happen. But as road safety practitioners, you can understand which part of the road safety system or the safe system approach that you can tackle in your own community, which is going to be a super useful way of starting your work on road safety. So unfortunately, Prashant, there's no magic bullet. There's no one thing that's going to save lives around the world. It's a culmination and a combination of many different activities and actions and of course many different projects. But always looking at it through the road safety system lens is going to understand what kind of problem it falls under. And that is a very good opportunity for me to plug the Yours Academy and say we have a whole module, free module on this on the yoursacademy.org, yoursacademy.org. And you can understand road safety from a systems approach, but also from a safe road system, kind of the risk factors as well, and understand road safety from that and what kind of things you could work on. All right, so Samuel said, I need to understand clearly between objectives and goals. I'm used to hearing SMART goals, but now I'm hearing SMART objectives. All right, cool. So this activity is going to help you do that. All right, welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for doing that activity. I know that maybe some of you might not have been able to finish it, but in the interest of time, we just want to jump through and see where we got to. So we're practicing a goal, objective, or an activity. I already gave you the answer to the first one. Develop a local youth consultation process that will enrich the youth statement. This is a activity. Oh, I already gave you the answer to the next one as well. Organize a meeting to bring youth relevant stakeholders from a broader health and mobility youth leadership context together. That is also an activity. Next one, increase helmet use among motorcycle drivers and passengers. Anybody know what that is? Feel free to put your hand up and we'll bring you live onto the Zoom and you maybe can answer that question. Anybody have an idea of what that one is? So most people are saying objective. All right, so it is a goal. It's a goal because it's a broader, it's not specific, is it? It doesn't have any numbers or any times or anything else in it. It's specific and it's not an activity. So indeed, it's a goal. Empower 1,000 young people from the University of Egypt through the development of youth capacities and meaningful participation in decision-making in a period of 2 years. Any ideas? Yeah. Somebody said activity, somebody said objective, somebody saying goals. So we're having mixed responses right now. It is an objective because it's specific. 1,000 young people from where? A university. What is it we're going to do? We're going to develop capacities. Although developing youth capacities, I think being measurable on that, we could be a little bit more specific on what we're trying to measure there as well. So making sure that we're understanding what that means. And it's time bound. It's over 2 years. All right, next one. Develop an awareness video that would catch the attention of civil society, media, and conference attendees. Any ideas of that one?
People are saying activity.
Activity. It's an activity. Yes, it is. It's an activity because it's not specific enough to be something that's going to change something, but it's specific enough in terms of meeting a goal. In terms of meeting an objective. So this is an activity that's going to help reach an objective. Okay, next one. is develop an advocacy guide toolkit for advocates. Any ideas what that is? Rashad said activity. Somebody said goal. Somebody said activity. Brilliant. Yeah, nice. All right. Yes, it's an activity. It's something that, again, that's going to help us reach an objective. Create an online platform on social media where young people can share ideas. Activity. Yeah, it's an activity again. It's an activity. Absolutely. Again, next one. Let's move to the next one. Increase UK government funding for additional pedestrian overpass along the main highway by 50% within 18 months. I think we're getting it now, right? It is an objective. Absolutely. It's very specific. We're talking about where, we're talking about who, we're talking about numbers, 50%. We're talking about a time, which is 18 months. We're talking about how that's going to happen. And yeah, it's an objective. Increase the frequency of quality and accurate reporting on road safety issues in the media. Goal. Yeah, goal. You guys are quick at typing. Yeah, it's a goal. Is it a goal? Yes, it's a goal. Figuring out that bigger mission, and we understand what the objectives are to meet that goal. And then the next one is reduce road deaths and serious injuries among young people in Beijing. Goal. Yeah, people are saying goal. People are saying goal. People are saying goal. Great. Yes, excellent. It is a goal. Well done. So you understand the difference between an activity, a objective, and a goal. So remember, a goal is kind of the high level thinking. It's something that we're aspiring for, something that we're trying to achieve. The objectives are the very specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound things, the SMART objectives that we're trying to achieve in reaching that goal. And the last bit is the activities. What are the specific things we're going to do to help reach our objectives? Okay, so that's it for me for now. Thank you very much, Prashant, for joining us. We'll be sharing our video for this after the call anyway. So, Danny, I want to pass over to you to talk about the last couple of steps now in the project planning phase. Remember, we're only talking about the first two steps of project management, which is the identification and project planning. And these are the last couple of steps now in terms of monitoring, evaluation, and so forth in this area. All right. So over to you, Danny.
Thanks, Manpreet. All right, people. So now you understand those three first key steps that we need to follow in order to get to this planning process. And the next step, the fourth step, would be the monitoring and evaluation. And this is a very important step because it will help us understand if we're getting to that goal, if we're getting to deliver those objectives and activities, and if we are doing it right. So for this step, we have two interesting or useful, questions that can guide us to understand what is monitoring and evaluation. The first one is, how can we know that this activity was carried out? What evidence should we have to prove that this activity was actually done? And also, how can we know if the objective or the objectives of our project were met? And what the success looks like. So it both helps us to understand the process, the things we need to do to achieve our goal and our objectives, and understand what the impact of or the potential impact of our project may be. So in the next slide, you can see an example on how can we understand and what are the elements that we need in order to monitor and evaluate. So first we need the activity. So it was the previous steps. We have the activity, in this case, from the case study of data collection. And the activity, the specific task is to hire IRAP engineers to implement a road assessment in Iringa. For this activity, we can set or define some indicators that, of course, need to be related to the activity. So in this case, it could be hiring or contract the IRAP engineers, understand how many kilometers we need to assess around the school, and also make, for example, draft a report on the improvements of this assessment. And for that, for these indicators that again need to be related directly to the activity, we can also set up the amount and the time that we will deliver these indicators. In the next slide, you will have another example, and you will see another example on how to monitor and evaluate. This is from the local actions project dashboard. So if there are any local action winners here, you really need to get familiar with this table, because that's how you will need to monitor and evaluate your progress for each activity. So let's keep the same activity of the case study. Let's say again, developing an educational and empowerment package for safe walking, meeting the local needs. And for that, you can identify some outputs. So let's say some specific products or evidence that you can pull out from the activity. So in this case, we are developing an educational package. So we can say we can define a certain number of sessions that we will design for this package to be delivered. We can also, for example, identify how many people we trained in that educational and empowerment package. And we also, if we want to go maybe deeper, can set up some, let's say, qualitative outputs. For example, in this case, we want to know what was the level of interest of the participants to work on road safety in the future. So it can also maybe show some of the impact of the activity we delivered. And we also can set a target, let's say a number that we want to aim to in each of one of these outputs. So for example, in the numbers of sessions design, we will say, okay, I will design 3 sessions. This is realistic. This is what can I do with my resources and with my team. So let's say it is 3 sessions. Regarding the number of people trained, we can say it is 180 because let's say we have access to an entire school. So that's a realistic number for us. So that will be our target. And regarding this qualitative outcome, we would like that 70% of these participants would rate their interest to work in road safety as a high interest, let's say 5 out of 5. For this last target, we would need to design a questionnaire, of course, to have the exact measure and to prove that this was actually the the target and that we achieved the target or not. And again, for the local actions case, they also ask to add some short-term outcomes. So maybe, let's say, short-term impacts from this activity. So in this case, it could be that we have young people trained and more aware of the role as road safety leaders. And another outcome, short-term outcome, could be the identification of potential volunteers for the project. So this is how we monitor and evaluate, and this is how we maybe draft some of the indicators, the outputs and the targets. The next step then would be the budget. And this is a very important thing because this is how will we allocate the resources we have. And again, are not only the monetary resources, but also the human resources. So for each activity, we would need to understand how much would it cost, what are going to be the materials that we are going to use, if we need to maybe find a venue, if it is going to be a workshop, maybe we will need to have a venue, or maybe let's say transportation. All of those items need to be considered in the budget, and they need to be aligned also with the objectives of the project. In the next slide, you will see an example. Let's go to the next slide on how each activity can be, let's say, measured depending on the materials or the needs of each activity. So for example, in the activity of developing an educational package, we could maybe charge the hours of the people that are delivering this activity. So we will define also a unitary cost. In this case, it is 50. It is just an example. And we will have 100 units. So it will account for 5,000 euros. For example, if we have another activity of printing the packages for the teachers, well, we will need to then identify what is the unit for this. In this case, it will be the package. Each package would cost us 40 euros. We would need to print 50, so that makes 2,000 euros. And the next activity is similar. So organizing the workshop. So what we will need for that, a venue, how much the venue rental costs. Here's the amount, and then we will have the total sum for the activity and then for the entire project. All right. So please keep in mind again that there are different types of items or elements that you need to take into consideration, and not only the human resources, but the materials, the transportation, and maybe administrative costs need to also be addressed. We have then the step 6, which is the implementation and the timeline. And this is also very important because once we have identified our goal, objectives, and activities, we need to understand when are they going to be delivered. And if we define, let's say, a time frame of 6 months or 7 months for our project, well, each activity needs to have its allocated time to for the project to be completed on time. So this helps us also to keep track on the project and ensure that everything is going to be delivered. In the next slide, you will see another example on how can we identify the timeline, and it is through a chart like this. And what we do is we for each activity we define the month that we are going to deliver the activity. So in this case, we have, it is just an example, it is 2 months. Each month has, well, 4 weeks. So we say that in the first 2 weeks of June, we will develop the educational package for safe walking. This in the case of the Iringa case study. For the activity 2, then we will deliver it in the 3rd and 4th week of June and the 1st of July. And then organizing the workshop, which is the 3rd activity in this example, will be by the end of July. We can even define like the exact date. As you can see in the 3rd activity, it says, let's say 27th of July. So that would be the date when we would be delivering the activities. The activities can overlap, so you don't have to have one first and then the other. It can happen that you can start planning and developing some activities in parallel. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that you are realistic and that you understand that the activities have some preparation. So be aware of the preparation time for each activity too. And the last step, and then we'll pass it on to our guest speaker, is the project team. It is also very important to understand what are the members of our team, what skills they have, how many people do we have to carry each one of the activities. And for example, if someone is more skilled on delivering a workshop or speaking to decision makers or drafting a campaign, well, let's allocate these activities, or let's give them the lead of these activities depending on their skills and their availability and their time. All right. So this is it. These are the 7 steps. We hope we have been clear. It is useful for you to implement the projects. We saw many of you are going to implement projects soon. So hopefully this was useful. And now, well, let's do a little stretch because it's been a long session. So stretch are welcome. And then we prepare, oh my God, for our guest speaker. I'm seeing her here, so I'll pass it on to Manpreet so he can introduce Ana Rodriguez.
Nice one. Thank you so much, Danny. So there's a lot of information, obviously, in these slides and in this session. And obviously, it takes a bit of time for us to absorb this, but also put it into practice as well, in terms of making a project come to life in these first 2 phases of the project management cycle. So after our stretch, I now want to hand over to Anna, Anna, I think I'm going to give you the presentations, kind of, what is it, the control of the presentation in a second. Ana Rodriguez is from Liga Pitonal. I don't know if I said that right, in Mexico. She's also obviously a local actions winner in her own right. She ran a very interesting project and continues to work on road safety issues. And she is essentially going to take what we've been talking about across the implementation phases of the first two phases of the project management phase, which is identification and project planning, but also looking at it in a holistic way of how her road safety project was implemented as well, and how she come up with these concepts and ideas. So thank you so much, Anna, for joining us. We don't have a huge amount of time, but I'm sure you'll stick with us to hear from our guest speaker. So Anna, over to you.
Thank you. Let me share my presentation. So now, as Manpreet already said, I am Ana Rodriguez from Liga Peatonal, which is translated as Pedestrian League. And at the beginning, we were called Pedestrian Justice League, but we quit the second word because it was a little bit funny. So we have been developing during the last 10 years some activities and projects, and we are trying to have a continuity with the first objectives that we have as organization and with the alliances that we have with another local organizations on Mexican cities. So I'm going to focus on the project management topic, and in the project of the last year from local elections with Liga Peatonal, which was focused on developing an advocacy tool. It has a little bit transformations during the process because we have some opportunities during the year, but we keep working with the local teams on Ensenada and Tijuana. When we identify the problem, we use the principal data on Mexico, because we made the census on 2020, so we have like fresh information. We also use another academic papers, some reports from another organization and projects. And with this information of the census, we can identify like the main population that we will work with and the main population that we are having like this change on the road safety issues. And then we try to focus on vulnerable groups, because the main funding about road safety and sustainable mobility have like these priorities on their assignation of funding, because this is more focusing on reducing inequalities in the society and other stuff. Because if we work with the general population, we cannot focus on specific activities that can work with a transversalization of another topics and problems. And also the transversal approach with the problems that we're working with, and the possibilities of collaboration with another organizations on the local level. We work as a national organization, but we have members on the Mexican states, and these members have their own organization on a local level that have this working on the streets. So we have this companionship with the funding, with the organization of the projects, with the management of the objectives and all of that. So we always have like parallel projects on the organization of Liga Peatonal, and we have like these potential projects to fund when we find the opportunity. This is an example of the system that we have in Mexico to consult the census information of the population. So we can have like a specific approach to understand our territory. Not everyone knows how to use these kind of platforms or this kind of geographical information systems, but we have some urban professionals and organizations to help us to work with. And about the specific terms that we are working with local elections, I will begin with the goals. So the goals are this main idea that we are working with to our project, as Daniela and Manfred already said. And these are like the good wishes of the project. And these have to be related with road safety, with our own activities on a daily basis as organizations or as activists. And it have to contain the SDGs in the redaction to be very clear about our impact. And our impact is more understandable if you can redact this on a global level, because maybe each country have very specific problems to work with, but the SDGs help us to work with the same terms about these specific problems that we have on our countries. We have here the methodology tool that we already developed on 2018. That is the implementation that we began to work with on 2019 with Aldo Gonzalez, which was the first winner. This was our goal on the last year local actions project. We cannot eliminate the sinistrality from one day to another. It will be wonderful, but we are just like 10 people working, volunteering on our cities. We have our own works. The cities are like a big monsters to work with, and the car industry is bigger than our will. So we cannot eliminate the sinistrality, but we can contribute. So we have to be very realistic to the things that we can do with the resources that we have. Not only the economical resources, but also the human resources and our social resources, as I can say, with the another alliances and organizations that can help us to work with. And this is the name of our methodology and the SDGs that we were working with. Then with the objectives, this is the methodology with that we were working and the alignment of the SMART objectives. So we use also the SDGs to have this alignment with the main goal. We have like this measurement in a realistic way, because maybe sometimes we want to work on a bigger level. We want to approach the problem like ambitiously, but not always we can do everything with the resources that we can. So we have to have a realistic goals that we can be comprometidos,
Committed.
that we can be engaged with the funding organization, because we don't want to lose the good relation with the organization that is funding the project. So we have to be very realistic to deliver a good project at the end of the funding. And well, this is an example of the last year project. And the activities are the tasks that we have to do on a daily basis to finish the project, in this case, in 1 year. So these tasks are with the team that is going to implement the project, so every person can be can understand which task is going to do during the year of the project. So this specific activity about loving the strategical changes, because the project was in the cities of Tijuana and Ensenada, and the organization of Liga Peatonal is in various Mexican cities. These specific activities is we're doing with the local organizations, because they are the ones that can go to the municipality and with the local officers to have this lobbying about the road safety issues. So there was a understanding at the beginning that this is going to be the task that they are going to do during the process, because the another members of the team cannot go to Tijuana and Ensenada during the year of the project, but can have these supporting activities from the other cities that we are located. And during the process of local actions, we have to make some adaptations, because the opportunities that we have during the year to work with the on the national level with the mobility, no, with the urban development secretary, with the SEDATU, we have the adaptation because we think at the beginning that we were going to develop an advocacy tool based on the local experiences of Ensenada and Tijuana. These experiences were very important, but on the national level, we have the opportunity to have an advocacy tool adapt to any city to have a active participation on the updating of the national mobility law. So we developed a tool to understand how to align the mobility law on pedestrian terms. So we developed the tool. We print these little booklets, and we deliver this tool to another organizations, not all from Liga Peatonal, but another organizations interested on the pedestrian topic on their cities. So on this way, we have this impact on helping the another social organizations or the civil society organizations focusing on pedestrian rights to participate on this this updating. And also when we have this process, we add another organizations, we have the combination with another funding opportunities to have a wider impact of the main project. This happens because we are working permanently on searching how to fund our projects. Not all the projects or not all the projects of Liga Peatonal are the local action projects, but because we have like an holistic approach of our projects, we can have like this addition of funding and another organization alliances. And another point that I want to share is that when we are having this commitment with a funding organization, we cannot lose the main objective that we have to develop at the end of the funding, because we have this main commitment with the organizations that we have to deliver at the end, and we cannot change the activities or the goals or the objectives because this kind of adaptation. But in the other way, we have to adapt the new elements to the main goal that we were commitment at the beginning of the funding. And about the outputs and targets, we have the tracking on Liga Peatonal as a main activity because we let the local organizations to have these lobbying sessions, to have these community activities. So we can have like this documentation and the following of the activities that we was engaged at the beginning. And the targets was established according to our capacities and according to the local organization capacities and time that can have to this project. And also on the project, we did the alignment of the objectives in order of time, and also the activities were in order of the time of the project, so we can have this tracking in order since the main spreadsheet that we did with Sana the last year, and the compromise that we have with local actions. And about the budget, you know that the local actions funding is not enough to have a salary for a year for a professional person working on road safety, but that doesn't mean that we cannot have an impact on some cities if we can have this organization already working. In Liga Peatonal, we have already worked with another consultants, mostly on graphic design, to these tools that we share with another local organizations. So we already have some budgets with the another consultants that we were working before. So that was the quantities that we were placed to make our budget. And also because our organization is based on volunteering work, we don't have to consider that cost on the budget. We consider that cost to understand the impact that our activities can reach and the changes that we can do with our human resources and our will to change the world. But on the funding budgets, we not always consider our salaries because we can like give this time to the projects and the organization. And but we have to consider the daily expenses of sustaining and a formal organization. In Mexico, we have to pay taxes. We have to pay our accountability or accountant, our web page, or email, or some stuff. So these are like the basic budget considerations that we have in every project, so we can keep sustaining the organization. And about the people that work with us, this is our structure. We work with the general coordination that is me during this year, and the next year we are going to change the general coordination, the general secretary, that helped me with the main activities that I have to do. And then we have the operational coordinations and technical coordinations that have their promoters to help them to work with on local level. And we consider the teams in Tijuana and Ensenada as promoters of the local action project. So they work with us and with external consultants and specific allies that not always are part of the Liga Peatonal organization. They can be another organizations working on their own projects that can work on these specific activities or projects. with us.
Thank you so much,
And-
Anna. I'm gonna just, because we're running out of time a little bit
Yes.
now. I think
Mhm.
what we could do is, this has been really useful in contextualizing and understanding the how we turn all those different project steps into something that's really practical. And one of the things I think that you mentioned is really important is that obviously we have ambitious goals, and there's a kind of a balance between ambition and being realistic and having to adapt, but also having all these different players at play as well. And I know you had a few more slides left, but we're already a little bit over in terms of time, so apologies for that. We're about 10 minutes over our end time, and I know people probably need to jump into other meetings and stuff. So if it's okay with you, Anna, what we're going to do is maybe we can share your presentation with people. Obviously, they can also read your local actions profile on the Claiming Our Space website. And I know you're still working on the project as well. It sounds like a really important project in Mexico and 2 Mexican cities. So, thank you so much for taking the time out to put it in. And I think what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap up the session and just say thank you for all the up to where we got to in terms of budgets and team. I think you pretty much covered everything that we wanted to focus on anyway. So thank you so much, Anna. And we're gonna just wrap up from here, if that's okay with you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you
And
so
can
much. I
contact
really-
me on the Liga Peatonal.
Yeah. Drop your
Webpage.
your handle in the chat or your
Yes.
email. And if anybody has
Mhm.
any questions for Anna, we would love to have done like a Q&A session as well. That would have been fantastic to, have specific questions to you. But maybe if anybody's got any questions, they might be able to reach out to you and email you, for example, and get some
Yes,
get
it's
some
perfect
insights
for
that
me.
way. Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.